Comment ça va? That means how you doing. Me? I'm Tinu, and I want to welcome you to my first Halloween special. Man, I was really hoping for a dark and stormy night, but the weather is gorgeous out there. Can you boys in the control booth help me out?
No problem.
Thank you. Tonight is a scary night because it's not only my first Halloween special, but it's my first collaboration with a motley crew of wicked crafters. So join me if you dare. Hey, that was your cue to turn on the reverb.
Sorry.
Okay, if you dare. This is what we're gonna be building today. The Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown. If this sounds fun to you, then let's get our craft on. Okay, let's just jump right on in. And then I'm gonna explain to y'all basically what the rules are for this collaboration. But for now, let's just say you have to buy some Halloween junk from the dollar store and make it better. P.S. If you have a hoarding problem, do not go to the dollar store. Now Brenda from Dollar Tree gave me this baby. She seemed like she really wanted to get rid of it, and I said okay. So I decided to combine this pumpkin and this baby, and I'm gonna make the Great Pumpkin from Charlie Brown. I also figured out why Brenda was so excited to get rid of this thing.
Tinu, get that thing out my house!
Now some delays were incurred before I could start crafting, but eventually a can of Raid solved that. This also helped. Let's get rid of this voice box. Actually, I think that was the core of the problem. So I'm gonna combine these two to make the Great Pumpkin. This is a horror video, so prepare yourself. Yeah, that's pretty horrifying. Now I've got a ton of tape on my windows because of the hurricane that just passed. We tape them up to stop shards from flying in the house. So I'm gonna use a lot of this tape to stuff these limbs, because I'm gonna pack the ends with epoxy sculpt so that I can make an armature out of this baby doll. And this will be a pilot hole. Alright, let's take some armature wire and we're just gonna eyeball this and get the right amount of distance between the limbs so that it's posable. Pack a little more epoxy sculpt in that hole. That's really gonna lock these wires in. Hey, look at this. It's all making sense now. Oh wait, does that mean love? I don't know. Now this is a Halloween mask that I made a long time ago. And I want to model the texture of the Great Pumpkin that I'm making off of this guy. Now before we go much further, let me go ahead and explain about this collaboration. Collaboration.
Welcome to CrafterDome. 5 crafters enter, 1 crafter leaves. The winner also gets a $65,000 cash prize. Let's meet our gladiators. From the island of Great Britain is Bill making stuff. Look at that face, he's ready to kill. What does Bill make? Robots. Lots and lots of robots. Bill can build anything using plastic junk, things like robots. Next up is Nick of CC Minis. Look at that sweet face. It's a shame he's gonna lose it. Nick is a wizard with an airbrush and repurposing children's toys. He also has a penchant for violence and an unhealthy relationship with goop. Good lord, why? And holding a black belt in Canadian Kung Fu, it's Norb Makes. Norb is a master of patience, crafting skill, and more than a touch of OCD. He builds entire freaking cities. And representing Swampland, USA is Tinu of Cajun Craftastrophe. Pack it up now, Tinu, you're gonna get eaten alive in the CrafterDome. Last but not least is the Belgian Banshee, Gert from Dark Matter Workshop. Gert's gonna teach you a thing or two about the dark arts, resin, and slime. Gert was born to rock, and he does, often. 5 crafters enter, 1 crafter leaves. Are you ready? Release the CrafterDome. Yes.
Now, I was feeling a little nervous but excited until Bill left me a message on my answering machine.
Tinu, look mate, I don't know how you got this all twisted up in your head and turned around, but this isn't a competition. It's just a friendly collaboration. You know, a couple of friends getting together, doing up some Halloween decorations. So basically, Tinu, what I'm saying is no one dies, no destruction of property, no fires, no weapons. There's no cash prize either. There's, none of that. No Thunderdome. Just a bit of fun, okay? All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Well, that certainly changes my weekend plans. Anyway, let's get to crafting. Sculpey, bacon bond, and a foam pumpkin from the dollar store. I had a little accident back here, so I decided to use epoxy sculpt to fill in the head. This is going to make it really strong, and it sticks much better than the Sculpey. So now that it's dry, I'm painting the whole thing with a bit of bacon bond, and then I'm going to lay Sculpey sheets on top of it. You've got a winning smile. Texture. So I'm adding epoxy sculpt to the joints now that I've got it kind of posed out in the way that I want it. This just locks it all in. And we're gonna let it dry. We're also gonna reinforce this leg because this thing is gonna be heavy. My interpretation of the Great Pumpkin is that he's gonna have some horns. Now, most people know that regular babies like to be slathered with lotion. Well, the same thing holds true for demon babies. I want the style of his mouth to be like Peanuts by Charles Schulz. Okay, we're gonna take a little detour here, but it's a Halloween detour, because you have to see what influenced me to make the Great Pumpkin. Check this out.
Warning, this following program may cause unexpected shivers down the spine, hyperexcitement, or chronic goosebumps. All of these medical conditions fall into the rare category known as frisson.
Good evening and welcome to the Frisson Files. Halloween, a time of laughter, joy, and confections for most, but not for Linus Van Pelt, a disturbed young man whose obsessions eventually spelled doom for himself and many other residents of Hennepin County, Minnesota. For 32 years, Linus Van Pelt sat in the same pumpkin patch on All Hallows Eve, positive that his sincerity would attract a mythical creature known as the Great Pumpkin. And 32 times in a row he was left bitterly disappointed. Years earlier, at the age of 28, Van Pelt finally relented to the romantic advances of Sally Brown. They were married in June of 1995, but it was an unhappy marriage from day one. Sally believed that she could change Linus, ridding him of not only his Halloween obsession, but also of that embarrassing security blanket. But she was wrong. Dead wrong. The body of Sally Van Pelt was found on the morning of November 1st, 1997 in the now infamous Minnesota pumpkin patch.
Police detained Van Pelt for suspicion of murder. However, there was one big problem: his sister Lucy. Though Linus and Lucy had always had a contentious relationship, she provided a rock-solid alibi for him. Lucy's mind was always quick, sharp, and deceitful, said Sergeant Schroeder of the Minnesota State Police. Me and the boys had a nickname for her around the station: Mrs. Hannibal Lecter. Unfortunately, Linus was released for lack of evidence. Sergeant Schroeder also noted that the very same day of Sally Van Pelt's murder was also the last day that anyone ever saw Linus with his beloved security blanket. Did Sally somehow dispose of the blanket, causing Linus to fly into an uncontrollable rage, thus ending her life?
And we're back. Man, the inside of my oven's looking like a horror movie. Boy. I'm gonna use this little pumpkin from the dollar store as a stamp. Oh yeah. There we go, chest plate. Your tools don't have to be fancy. He's kinda way into leather. Now the Great Pumpkin comes from a long line of great pumpkins, and this is their family crest, a stem. So we're gonna represent some of that on his armor. I made this little measurement template out of some cardstock, so I'm roughly cutting out some sheets of Sculpting. You'll see what this is used for in a minute. Stamp it. Put my template over. Now I'm going to cut out some armored plates, and they're all going to be the same size because of my template. Patent pending. What are you doing now, Tinu? Well, check this out. This is called a knurled bevel. See that? Knurled. If your Sculpey sticks, lift it up with a knife. Let's add a little battle damage. The Great Pumpkin was never received with open arms throughout the ages. In all fairness, he's not that easy to get along with. Yep, more leather. So I've wrapped the horns, and now I'm adding some plate lines. I like things that look like metal plates. And these are like recessed bolt holes. Now I wanted the top of the horns to look like Halloween. And to me, that looks like Halloween. Decided not to refine the hands too much. I kind of like them rough and raw because he's a monster. Now, I'm not very good at dioramas. At least I've never made a diorama before. But I want the Great Pumpkin to be destroying a couple of buildings inside of Hennepin County. I bought this foam core board at the dollar store. So, officially, I'm within the rules here. This is gonna be the sidewalk, but it's too smooth. So, let's push the foam board into some 60 grit sandpaper. It's gonna give it a little texture. See that? Now for the same reason, I'm stippling some thick acrylic paint onto what's gonna be the roadway. Let's cut up some polystyrene foam to make some little buildings. Gonna hot glue them together. Now the hot glue does melt this foam, but on the inside it doesn't really matter. I want to hide this reinforcing dowel that I put under his foot with a building that he's kicking over. We'll add some more rubble back there to hide it. Now in order to bring out the details on the sidewalk, we're going to dry brush it with some gray. Now I'm coating the back with some wood glue, and that's what I'm going to use to glue down the sidewalk. Now in order for it to dry flat, we're going to add some weight to it.
Psychologically damaged by his sister and pushed into a loveless marriage, it was suspected by police that Linus Van Pelt simply snapped after his security blanket disappeared.
Losing his blanket was the worst thing that could have ever happened to Linus.
Yes, you are correct, sir. You always felt that Linus was barely holding on to his sanity, sir.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where our story takes an even stranger turn. It is believed that Linus Van Pelt somehow succeeded in summoning the Great Pumpkin on Halloween night of 1999. Linus's already heavy drinking escalated and he plunged himself into the dangerous world of the occult. He was on a mission to prove that the Great Pumpkin existed and would go to whatever lengths necessary to summon it to his pumpkin patch. Our research staff here at the Frisson Files studied the archaic text and uncovered something amazing. The supposed mythical creature's name was not the Great Pumpkin, but was instead known as the Great and Terrible Pumpkin. Go figure.
I was about to step into the shower that morning when I felt this boom, boom, boom. You know, like big giant footsteps. I ran outside and there was this giant angry pumpkin just going dead. I grabbed my camcorder and just started shooting. Then, these unmarked SUVs pulled up and several men in dark suits ripped the camcorder from my hands and smashed down the ground. The whole thing left me feeling dirty.
Linus Van Pelt was never seen again after that day. He was presumed dead along with 32 other residents of Hennepin County. We are left with so many unanswered questions. Did Linus Van Pelt murder his wife? Was he somehow able to summon the ancient demon? Or did the government capture the maniacal gourd and to this day it's still imprisoned in an underground bunker somewhere? Hey, who knows? But one thing is certain, it's enough to give you the frissons. Thank you, and stay tuned for Unsolved Basket Cases coming up next.
Hey you out there in the audience, maybe you should consider subscribing and pressing that like button.
You know what I'd like?
Well, what's that?
For you to shut up.
And that's why no one likes you, Curtis. And we're back. This is acrylic spray paint. You heard me right. Now what's awesome about this is that you can use it on Sculpting. You can't use most spray paints on Sculpting because it just doesn't dry right. Some of the chemicals leach out into the paint and it messes it up, but not this stuff. He's looking pretty good. I attached the head by using some armature wire and epoxy sculpt. Look at that guy. So I needed to do a little problem solving in order to roll out the epoxy sculpt into 10 sheets. The popsicle sticks are going to help me to make it one uniform thickness. And this wax paper and water stops the epoxy sculpt from sticking to everything. See that? You have to use a lot of water to do this. Now we got a facade for our building. We can sculpt details into it. You gotta keep everything very wet. Don't forget to clean up your tools very well, because epoxy sculpt will destroy them. This stuff is usually referred to as frisket, and it's a masking fluid. It's basically latex rubber. Now you paint this over the parts that you don't want to get paint on. Now I can just dry brush the whole thing. When you finish, you just peel it off. Oh, it's really satisfying. Good times. Alright, let's put a brown wash on all of this stuff too. Now obviously I'm not going for hyper-realistic buildings here. I want everything to feel cartoonish so that it's all from the same world. In order to make some rubble, I used some plaster of Paris, I let it dry and then I crumbled it up. And I'm spraying it with an alcohol solution here. And now a watered down solution of Mod Podge and water with a little bit of soap in it. So this is called Scenic Glue, and it glues everything in, little pieces that would be very difficult to glue by hand. Now I learned this technique from Abandoned Miniatures. This is Nick. Nick is on a whole other level, not just with his crafting, but with his cinematography. It's pretty incredible all around. So go to Nick's channel and subscribe and prepare to be blown away. It's got the perfect Halloween vibe. I'm also gonna be interviewing Nick on Piecraft 13, my second YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. After seeing all that amazing crafting from Abandoned Miniatures, let's look at these crappy little cars that I made. Now, I always have an excuse, so here's this one. These cars are kind of cartoonish because the whole world that I'm doing is based around peanuts. So, yeah, that's a Peanuts car, right? And this is a crashed car. Don't text and drive, people. Yeah, I'm thinking y'all should go subscribe to Abandoned Miniatures right about now. Skid marks. Don't text and drive. Air conditioning system. Garbage can. Garbage can. Mystery pipe on top of a building. No one knows what it's for. Good thing the bar wasn't destroyed, because after the day that the residents of Hennepin County had, business was brisk. This is where Brenda works. I hope management writes up a report on her for selling me that possessed doll. Alright, let's call this thing done. Well, I may have gotten the concept of a collaboration a little bit backwards, and I'm still pretty disappointed that there's no cash prize. But let's check out the results.
Dark Matter Workshop.
Of course the Dark Lord would know how to defile a Barbie doll and turn it into a nightmare vision. This guy is in pretty big trouble, if you ask me. I like the way Gert did all the veins on his Spider Queen. Scary.
Bill making stuff.
Bill has used his crafting magic to turn this plastic skull into something pretty disturbing. I'm pretty sure this guy died in a bar fight. Yeah. So the lesson here is don't go drinking at a pub with Bill and ask him if his channel's called William Making Robots.
KNARB makes.
Our Canadian friend KNARB has made some boneyard terrain for gameplay for use with his minis. And man, these things are looking really cool. So he turned some cheap plastic dollar store items into something that looks way cooler, which was the entire point of this collaboration. Nice.
CC Minis.
How about a nice warm cup of nightmare juice? This guy reminds me of my dentist. Plus he's got a trick up his sleeve. You may want to use a little extra caution if you build something like this, especially if your friends are vampires. So we went from this and this, oh boy, to this. I need to give a giant and warm heartfelt thanks to my friend Jesse over at Little Giant Crafts. Jesse is an amazing illustrator and a really terrific crafter. Jesse did all the drawings for the peanut section of my video, and man, he really knocked it out the park. Also, if you're brand new to crafting and don't know where to start, go to Jesse at Little Giant Crafts. He's gonna take you by the hand from the beginning and teach you how to craft. Thanks, Jesse.